Fala pessoal, a gente vai ter mais uma entrevista. Vamos falar com ninguém mais, ninguém menos do que Aaron Ross, um dos maiores especialistas de vendas do mundo. Aaron, thank you very much for your time. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Happy to be here.
Aaron, during the Vendas B2B Summit, we talk a lot about specializing of the sales roles. We talk about mapping calls. We talk about nailing a niche. Today, I want to talk more about some tactics aspects of cold calling 2.0. Sounds good?
Yeah, I'm down. I'm ready for anything.
Well, always when we're talking about cold calling 2.0 here in Brazil, people get obsessed with email response rates. And I recently saw you talking about response rate throughput. Could you explain this concept and why it is so important?
Yes. Yeah, here in the States, people get so obsessed with email templates, and it's like, is it people stop wanting to think for themselves? They just want, tell me the email template. And here in the States, most people really do not like mass email, and for good reason. And a lot of bloggers here will write, you have to personalize every email you send. You have to research every account you call. So what I want people to understand is there's different techniques. There's different ways to reach out to people. Yes, there's the phone or direct mail, or you can knock on doors. And even within email, you can use email templates. You can personalize your email. You can use, we call it a referral approach. You can use a direct approach. So again, there's a variety. It's a little more complicated. And what you want to do is understand a small number of approaches that work well. So the idea of response rate throughput is if I have an email template, and if it takes me, let's say 2 hours to, get my list together, to, update what I'm doing, and to send the template, a mass email to 100 people, and it might not take that long, but let's just say 2 hours. If I send 100 emails and if I get 5 responses, right? So it's a 5% response rate. And again, you can have positive responses, you can have negative, but let's say we get 5 responses. That's 2.5 responses per hour of work. Now, on the flip side, if I do personalized email, if I research a company for 20 minutes and I write an email, and a lot of people it takes them a long time to write personalized or custom emails. And so if they write I know some people who write 5 personalized emails a day. But let's say I write, if I get the math right, let's say 10 emails in 2 hours. Right? I've written 10 emails and I get a 50% response rate. All right. I've still gotten 5 responses in 2 hours. It's still so it's the same response rate throughput. And let's assume the responses are similar in quality. But that's the idea of like, don't be so obsessed with the response rate. Look at how much time does it take? What's the quality of the response to be a better judge around what's the best technique. And even better than that is to know that sometimes mass email works or template works. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the personalized approach works and sometimes it doesn't. I know people who have said they're spending hours doing these personalized emails and no one's responding. So sometimes there's no one technique that works all the time. It's better to say, hey, if you have 2 or some number of techniques, I have my email template. I've got my personalized approach. So I'll try it here. If that doesn't work, I'll try the other one. And over here, I'll try this. And if that doesn't work, I'll try the other one. And you're flexible that way. You can adapt. So you're being intelligent about your prospecting and how you use your time.
People are always looking for a formula, right? Something that is...
They're always looking for a quick fix. Can you just show me the magic solution so I don't have to figure it out myself? I just want to copy it. It's like school.
Yeah,
Can I just copy your homework?
Not how it works, right?
Sometimes it works in the short term, but ultimately to be successful and to have a successful business, you need to be able to be innovative in your own right, including with prospecting techniques.
Yeah. Well, for this initial outreach, I've seen you talking about using cold emails, mapping calls, or even via LinkedIn. How do you decide when to use each of these approaches? How do you decide how to use each one of those?
Yeah, well, they're talking about what the clients we use. So there's pros and cons to each. So again, there's LinkedIn, there's phone calls, there's direct email, referral email. I have clients that knock on doors. I mean, there's really so many different ways, like techniques. So I usually like companies to start with what's simple and see how well that works. If it works, great, do more of it. If it doesn't work, and it takes a while to see if something doesn't work because there's a lot of testing, and but then if it doesn't work, then you might want to try the next approach. It might be a little harder to do. So for example, referral email templates work great. They're simple. This is who's the right person to talk to about some topic. They do take tweaking and testing to get it right, but in terms of across companies, they're simple. They work well. If they don't work for someone, all right, now let's try a bit more of a personalized approach. So you do it through testing. And again, in the States, usually LinkedIn for some people works all right. I don't really see it working very well for a lot of B2B companies, but I know for some people it works. So you're just testing. And I like to start with the simple templates and then move up to personalized emails and then go to social media is like a progression. And sorry, let me phrase that. So simple templates and then mapping calls and then personalized emails and then social as they get more complicated.
Perfect. I also see you and Mary Lou talking a lot about AWAF calls. Could you tell us how exactly does it work?
Yep. So what I find is that there's some types of phone calls that can be predictable. Mapping calls can be a very predictable kind of phone call. Are we a fit calls or AWAF calls are what we call that initial talk. It could be for 5 or 10 or 20 minutes to say, hey, is there a fit here or not? We don't want people to be...
It's not a discovery call, right?
It's not quite, it's like light discovery light. And when you say discovery call, I think of, hey, let's spend an hour together with a prospect to really understand what their pains are. Is there a fit? What are next steps? And so on. And are we a fit call is usually done by, if you have dedicated prospectors, and then your outbound's not going to be as effective nearly as effective as it could be until you have dedicated outbound prospectors. They usually do this initial call. Again, there's always exceptions. Everyone's a bit different, but they usually do this first call just to make sure, hey, it's like we say here, a sanity check. Does this company in person somehow, is it even close to the kinds of situations that we feel is a good sales fit? Or is it a waste of time? Because it's very easy for prospectors to set up appointments on a salesperson's calendar, but how many of those are going to be worthwhile versus how many are a waste of time and totally unqualified? So this is a sanity check to make sure that there's something here that could be a good fit. And the structure...
More than qualifying, the idea is like disqualifying fast. If there's not a fit.
Yeah, it's a chance. It's probably better to call it a disqualification call, to look for reasons this is just going to be a waste of time. So obviously it's a chance to look for things that might excite the prospect, to gather some initial information. Again, if I'm a prospector and if I support 3 different salespeople, I might need to know, where is this company located? What type of industry is it in, or what's their budget? Or there might be some criteria I need to find out from them in order to understand who should I pass it to. So it's a really important quality control check and process step for most companies to have this work smoothly. So not only do you find out, is there something here and it's not a waste of time, but what salesperson should it go to? And the salesperson can be a bit better prepared for the conversation because they know a little bit about the situation before they show up for this discovery call.
Great. One of the main productivity killer inside sales teams is the no-show, when the appointment is set and the prospect doesn't show up. What, in your opinion, can be done to mitigate this problem?
Yeah, it's a common problem, and there's a lot of reasons for it. So you can't always say there's one thing to do. So on one hand, probably the most common reason is because whoever set the appointment up either got the prospect, it's like not a great fit. And so the prospect, when they see it on their calendar, like some people will agree to a meeting just because they're not really sure what's going on, or they want to get you off the phone. And there's a lot of reasons why people will just like, sure, I'll do it. Just I don't want to talk. I just want to stop talking right now. It's just easier for them. So that happens. Another reason is because in the conversation, there wasn't really a connection made. So someone said, it sounds interesting, but they're not really interested. So when the meeting comes up, they're like, it's not that big a deal. I'll just blow it off. If they're not really sold on the value of what you're doing. Another reason could be just simple reminders if people are busy. So I think ultimately it's what you do. It's you make sure like which companies are the best fit who really need you. As a prospector, when they're doing it, really try to disqualify them if they're not going to be a fit. If they're just if there's not a real need, don't set it up yet, and have reminders or system in place to make the attendance as easy as possible. So in this case, you might send a calendar invite. You want to make it as easy as possible for it to get on the calendar and for them to remember, and for them to remember why it's important, like what they're interested in, that follow-up. And if they don't show up, and not everyone's always going to show up because things happen. There's like an emergency meeting, or they forget, it doesn't get on the calendar. So when they don't show up, to reach out and try to find out, was it because they're not really that interested? Or are they really interested and just something happened? You reschedule it.
Oh, great tips. Yeah. And what about metrics? What are the most important metrics to measure in predictable revenue methodology?
Yeah, well, ultimately, one of the most important ones is the number of, the number of and the dollar value of the qualified opportunities generated per month. Right? Some people might call them sales accepted leads, sales qualified leads. What that means is an appointment is created, and whether there's an AWEF or not, or however that process works, for where an appointment is created for a salesperson, that salesperson qualifies or requalifies in a discovery call, and they say, yes, this fits my criteria. I'm going to accept it into my pipeline. Right? It gets a thumbs up. So the number of those created per month per prospector and the dollar value of those is the most important thing. Because at that point, if you know what your rough closing rate is, and usually it should be about 20% for these opportunities, you can start to predict your future revenue. It also means that you've done your job to create the quality control you need on the prospecting team. Because again, lots of teams will just create appointments that don't go anywhere. That totally didn't work. Lots of teams will create appointments that are just not a good fit. They don't go anywhere. And it just clutters. Again, they're under pressure to create 10 or 20 appointments a month. And they're under pressure to create them. And so they create a lot of appointments that are they're not quality. Right? So it's better to create fewer, better appointments for the sales team.
Great. Aaron, everybody's talking about Receita Previsível here in Brazil. As I told you before, I was just...
And hipercrescimento.
Hipercrescimento.
I have one here.
People talk more about Receita Previsível, but I loved hipercrescimento.
That's my wife, by the way.
Yeah. But as I told you, I was in...
I'll grab the books, actually.
I was in a 2 days event here in São Paulo, and your name was like, people told like 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, oh yeah, at the event that you just went to, right?
Yes.
So this is the original, came out 5 years ago, and this is the new book that just came out in the States even a year ago. It's called From Impossible to Inevitable. And here, of course,
I love it.
Renamed it. Yep.
Hipercrescimento.
Yeah, it was exciting, especially thanks to Diego Gomes, who and Rock Content that helped get the word out. But they've been at the top of the sales lists, at least on Amazon for months now, near the top for quite a while. So it's been exciting.
Yeah, everybody's really excited about it. Talk a little bit about the Universidade Previsível. It starts like next week. The first class, the first group. Talk a little bit about it.
Well, what I found here in the United States, we saw a lot of prospectors and teams. And there's so much here. There's just so much content and noise and people writing and advice. It's just very confusing, especially in prospecting. And part of that's my fault because I helped create this, make outbound prospecting exciting again. So, I felt, and my team felt that there's just so much noise. How do we help people go back to the basics and the fundamentals around what does prospecting need to be successful? It's not the email template. It's sort of going back to who's your customer, how do you know them, what's their pain. Okay, then the simple best types of calls and emails. How do you organize your time? It's try to give people were missing this foundation that they needed, and they're getting too caught up in like copying, pasting email templates from everywhere. So we created this university. It's a live training that goes over a month here in the States to teach prospectors or salespeople who prospect, anyone who needs to prospect for their job, to teach them the fundamentals of outbound prospecting and how to be successful at it. It's been very successful here in the quality of people's experience. And the first thing that my partners and I knew, we didn't want to do just a bunch of videos because they don't work for me, and I don't think they work for many people. So it's all live human interaction. So for a month, 4 times a week for 30, 40 minutes a day, we have classes like this with a group of people, and there's an instructor, there's lessons, it's project-based. And it's been very successful in taking people from, a starting point and actually really teaching them techniques to be successful at prospecting. So now it's been a year and a half or so in the States. Once we got that really working, along with the books, now it's coming out in Brazil. Again, Universidade Previsível. I speak some Spanish, but no Portuguese. All I know in Portuguese is muito obrigado.
Yeah, it's time to learn, Aaron.
And bom. Yeah.
You like right now. It's really good to see the relationship that it's having, like you in Brazil, and I know you like Brazil a lot. So
yeah, it's great.
Time to learn Portuguese.
Yeah, I know it is. But I don't know if you know, but we have 11 kids, so my time is very stretched. That's also why we have like random people in the background sometimes here, because there's no my office is being repainted downstairs, an old bedroom being repurposed, but there's always some moving, changing thing here. Portuguese, we'll get there. But I'll be down in Brazil in a month, and it's my favorite international market. Just because there's a lot of people who are excited, who want to grow companies, interested in sales, interested in growth and entrepreneurship, and it's a very promising economy and market, especially in the tech, software, SaaS business spaces in Brazil.
So you'll be here in Brazil August 15th, 16th, right?
Yes, we're having a book party, book signing on August 15th, and then there's a master class with HSM on the 16th. And I go home the night of the 16th because on the 17th I have a son who's having a hand operation here in the States, 8-year-old son. Planned.
Yeah, that's not it happens.
Yeah, but I want to give props. Well, here we say compliments to your partner on Vendas B2B, but Eduardo Muller is doing a great job. He's our head of Brazil with the Universidade Previsível, and he's doing a great job. So,
yeah, well. We're really excited and waiting to have you here in Brazil. Thank you very much for your time, Aaron. It's as always a pleasure to talk to you. And
thank you, Daniel, and thanks everybody who's listening and watching.
See you in Brazil.
Hopefully people can meet you in Sao Paulo.
Definitely. Thank you.